Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Destiny Awaits podcast. I am your host, Andrea John, and, well, today we have his chair, but Mike isn't here. Today, you just get me. And I wanted to take a moment to have this episode where I can share my heart with you and share the purpose behind Destiny Awaits podcast and some things that are going to be happening moving forward. We have noticed that we have a lot of new listeners, and I wanted to share a little bit about my heart, the purpose of this podcast, and some plans that are coming up just to bring everybody up to speed, because historically, a lot of the people who listen to my podcast were friends and family, and now we have so many new listeners, and I just wanted to share what's going on, bring you in behind the scenes, fill you in so that we can get to know each other. Now, with that being said, most podcasters will tell you that when we're looking at statistics, it's very clear that the people who listen to our podcasts, a large majority, aren't subscribed or following our actual podcast or channels. That's quite normal. And that's because you're probably watching either we're in your recommendation, you've watched us before, so the video just pops up, or you follow us on social media and you click in from there, or you get an email, something like that. That's absolutely 100% normal. But what I am going to ask is that you do subscribe to the channel and that you follow the channel, because that helps push it out to other people who are on the same journey as us. I'm not the biggest fan of social media. If I'm being honest, the only reason I'm on it is to share the things that God puts on my heart, to share about the podcast and all the different things that I'm doing. But social media is good in a way because it exposes us to things that we're interested in. The algorithms generally do work. I know that some would say that there's censorship and all of that, and I'm not denying that that's the case. But what I am saying is that algorithms do tend to push out things to people who are interested in it. So by you subscribing or liking, commenting, and sharing, what you're telling that social media platform is that that video or that podcast, whatever content, whatever you just read, is interesting enough to take a look at. So it will then push it out to people who may want to see it, because if you're interested in it, that probably means someone else would be interested in it. And the more people that do it, it's going to say, wow, if all these people are liking and listening, there's probably more people out there that would enjoy it. So please do so. With that being said, do keep in mind that this podcast is not monetized. We do not make money off of this podcast. I do not make money off of any of my social media platforms. Everything that I do is free. In essence, it is a ministry. I'm not saying that I didn't wish we'd make money off of the podcast, because there are expenses that come with producing this podcast. But what I'm saying is that despite us paying to make this podcast, meaning each and every week we spend money to push this podcast out to you, even though we do that, we do so with a heart of service. We do it because we believe in what we talk about on this podcast. We believe in the message that we share. That is why we have this platform, and that is why we are on all the social media platforms that we are, because we believe in the message that we share and we want everyone to have access to it. That's not to say we will never monetize. That's not to say that this won't become a for-profit or whatever the case is. I am not ever going to lie to you guys about any of that. I will always be very open and transparent about what's going on. For example, even the sponsors that we have on this podcast, you're going to start hearing us promote some sponsors. We don't get paid by those sponsors. It's not like they give us money or anything like that. They are businesses, ministries, things like that, or sometimes even individuals that we stand behind, we know, we love, we trust, and we really believe that it would be in your best interest to know them as well, to buy their products, to listen to what they're saying, to read what they say. So we they are our sponsors. And just as they are our sponsors, we sponsor them in sometimes unique ways as well. We back them, they back us, we're sharing the love. That's all our sponsors are at this point. If we ever have sponsors where we are receiving financial contributions, I probably would do a video just like this and update you, because I want to make sure that I'm always being transparent and authentic with everything that we're doing. We have spent an enormous amount of money building out this studio. This studio is very simple. My husband worked on it for me to build it out. And my brother, who's a sound engineer, has come here. He's helped us with the sound and with the lighting. But you see that over every week, it looks different. We're in a different position because we're trying to figure out what works. We are new to this. We're not experts in this at all. So we do everything ourselves. I edit and produce everything that I make myself. I'm learning along the way. It's getting easier. I'm getting better, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of money. But I really believe in this podcast. Everything that I do, when I'm studying the Bible, when I'm praying, when I'm spending time with God, no matter what I'm doing, this podcast is at the core of my heart. It is something that I'm so proud of because I've had this podcast now for several years. Last year, I became more intentional about doing episodes more frequently and being consistent with it. And while in the beginning of the year, I wasn't as consistent as I liked, I was more intentional about it. And then thankfully, towards the end of the year, things just wound up happening and we've been able to post every week. That's why last week when I didn't post, while none of you probably sat there crying or even cared, I just had it hanging over my head. And I felt so bad because I had made a commitment that I would make a post every week. But the reality is that although my purpose is to wake up every day and help you discover your purpose so that you can step into your destiny, I have a family and I have the same purpose for them, and they come before you. So I don't mean that to sound mean in any way, but if I had to pick between my family and the podcast, my family's always going to come first. So I'm not going to say I didn't have time to edit the podcast. I'm going to say I chose not to make the time because I was focused on my family, and I also needed to rest because God has been convicting me about working 7 days a week. I do have a full-time job, as does Mike, and everything that I do with this podcast, this initiative, I'm going to talk about an initiative at the second half of this episode with you that I'll be working on. Everything that we do here is all extra. And while we treat it like a full-time job, it's almost like a second full-time job. So it really wears on us. This podcast it takes a lot of work to produce, but also spiritually, emotionally, mentally, I'm fully invested. So every episode that you see, I'm not just invested Bible studying and bringing all that to you. I'm invested in it in every sense of my being, where if I'm going to come and talk to you about something, you best believe that I am going to become whatever it is that I'm talking about. Whatever it is that I believe, I'm going to do my best to live it. I'm not always perfect at it. Sometimes I mess up, I fall short, whatever the case is, but I really invest in it. So let me tell you something about this Jesus Speaks series on the Sermon on the Mount. I'm so grateful to Mike that he has been taking time out of his busy schedule too, because he has a business. He does boat rentals in addition to his full-time job. He takes the time to sit here with me. He has his own ministry stuff, but he sits here with me because one, we both love to discuss the Bible. We don't agree on everything, and there's things that he knows that I don't know and vice versa. But him sitting here with me and talking through it in front of a camera, I just feel like it brings so much value, not just to me, but also to you as an audience, because you can hear the dialogue and the thoughts and how we process things and how we talk through things. I also think indirectly, it can help present what it looks like when a couple discusses things and then sometimes doesn't agree. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but Mike and I don't agree on everything. And there's times where you've probably noticed I get so into my thought and he's joking around and I don't even laugh. And usually I laugh. I find him extremely hilarious and funny. But when I'm talking about the Bible or processing thought, that's like I'm linear focused. I can be like that. I guess I think that's compartmentalization. And he can be like that too, but it's just funny how we work together. I really enjoy talking to Mike about things. He is one of the smartest people I know in my life. He is one of the funniest people I have in my life. The man makes me laugh all the time. Drives me crazy sometimes, but he also makes me laugh. He is my partner and I absolutely love doing life with him. So to be able to have him on this podcast with me, I just love it. And while I always say with Andrea, I am your host, Andrea, I kind of feel bad that he's not even in the logo as well. I haven't asked him if he wants to be in the logo, but he's just as much a part of this podcast as I am, even when he's not sitting here. So his seat is empty, but he is here because he has really, really been such a supporter and helped me a lot when it comes to this podcast. So my heart is fully invested in this podcast, and that is why we're going to make a change. So historically, we have always posted our episodes on a Thursday or Friday. Mike and I record on a Wednesday night because that's the only night that we both have free. Let me rephrase that. That's the only night that Mike and I have decided to not do what we would normally do to meet and record the podcast because both of us work. He also does ministry stuff. I have the girls and I volunteer, but we also care for our health and we've taken our health journey a lot more seriously. So we prioritize that. But Wednesday nights, we both decided that instead of doing things that we would normally do, instead of him going and working on the boats or working out, and same thing for me, we have decided that Wednesday nights is dedicated to recording the podcast and diving in together and talking about the Sermon on the Mount. However, turning that recording around, producing and editing it to put out on a Thursday and Friday has proven to be very difficult and very stressful at times, unnecessarily, may I add, because there's no one over me telling me it needs to happen, but I made a commitment to myself to have a podcast episode every week. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the day. So we're going to be having our podcast episodes out every Tuesday or Wednesday the latest. So my goal is Tuesday, but should something come up, because again, we have full-time jobs and we have a family, I will give myself a little bit of an extra time and push it out on Wednesday. That gives me 5 to 6 days to edit and produce the episode, which allows me to bring something of quality to you, because the stress that has come on me to edit and produce has been what's difficult, because I want to give you something of quality. And there are times I've listened back to episodes and I realize that I misedited something or whatnot. And while you may not notice or you don't care, I care, because I care about excellence. So that gives us a little bit of time. That's why this episode is a little bit different. I just wanted to share my heart with you and give me a little bit more time to edit the next episode that we have coming up. Now, that's one thing. 2 things. The next thing, I am working on a project and I don't remember if I shared it here at all, or maybe I just mentioned it, but I wanted to share it in case those who are listening are interested and want to participate. I am starting a movement called Voices of Domestic Abuse. We are working on a website that will be voicesofdomesticabuse.com. The first project we will be working on is called Micah's Law Florida Project. Micah's Law is named after, formerly known as Micah Miller. A lot of the Justice for Micah movement referred to her as Micah Francis, as she was in the process of divorce and changing her name. Micah's life was lost too early on April 27th of 2024. The official statement is that it was self-induced. However, there is a significant amount of evidence, allegedly, that there was domestic abuse in her life. by her estranged pastor husband. This is all alleged. He has not been convicted of a crime. The official take at the moment is that it was a self-unaliving. However, we do know that the FBI is involved because they did raid this pastor's home too long ago. I think on October 31st. Before Micah's life was taken, she made some videos and said some things and sang some songs. And her voice is just so powerful, but not in the way that we know. It wasn't loud. It wasn't stern. It wasn't angry. It was filled with love and compassion. Despite what she was going through, she was always looking to bring hope into other people's lives. That's why her voice speaks so much to me, because that's something that I've always done. It's just who I am. Despite what I'm going through, I always try to learn the lesson and share it with other people. I was a Micah Miller, but I made it out. And I'm thankful for that, but I'm also saddened. I'm saddened that a pastor's wife was abused, allegedly to the point that she either chose to not live anymore, or was led to not live anymore, or life was taken. There's a lot of speculation and thoughts out there. I don't know what the truth is. God knows what the truth is. But despite it all, there is allegedly an enormous amount of information and evidence that substantiates domestic abuse, specifically coercive control in her life. That's something that I can absolutely relate to. There are other people who are in the same position now, or maybe they recently got out, or they're trying to get out, and they don't, and they can't, or they're afraid to, for many different reasons. And that is where this movement is going to come in. Voices of Domestic Abuse has 3 pillars. The first pillar is to advocate. It will be a platform where victims and survivors of domestic abuse can share their stories. The second pillar is legislative reformation. It's where we will look at the laws, specifically in Florida, because that's where I'm from. If you want to join the movement and then branch out into your state, if you're from somewhere else, you're more than welcome to. But this legislative reformation will be about us understanding the Florida laws, identify where there are gaps, where there are holes, fill them in with laws that can be implemented and measured and cannot be used against the victim. This legislative reform pillar will be about understanding the Florida laws and identifying the gaps and the needs to protect victims from their abusers. So we want to make sure that whatever we do can be implemented, so we have a plan, as well as minimize the risk of it being used by an abuser against the victim. And then the third pillar is education. It's educating victims, law enforcement, the legal system, anyone around what domestic abuse really is, specifically around coercive control. We will also educate friends and family members, because when a victim approaches a friend and family member, it's very important that that person can help support them throughout the process. When you are in an abusive relationship, looking to leave, emotions are very high. It's a very scary time. You're anxious, you're afraid, you don't know what's going on, and your brain just doesn't function optimally. It's very hard. You're in fight or flight constantly. No matter how much therapy you're getting, I'm telling you from experience, it's very hard to think straight. But to have family and friends around you, even if it's just one person, who understands the laws and knows what to do, it can really help the victim. It can help them understand when to call the police, what to say to the police, what to ask for, what's their legal rights. These are things that I didn't know, and so many victims don't know until they're already past it, because they're wanting to help other people. So those are the 3 pillars: advocacy, legislative reform, and education. And we will come together on March 1st at 2 p.m. That's going to be our first meeting. And we're going to talk, and we're going to hear some stories, and we're going to talk about some gaps and start honing in on exactly what our mission is, so we can always stay on target. We may wind up finding that we have multiple projects that we want to work on, but we will prioritize those projects. With that being said, the Destiny Awaits podcast will remain because it's a passion of mine. I want and I wake up every day to help others find their purpose so they can live their best life, because I am, despite all the nonsense in my life. But I will also be starting a new podcast in addition called Breaking Free from Abuse. And this will align with voicesofdomesticabuse.com to offer a platform for victims to tell their stories, as well as mental health professionals to give advice, as well as law enforcement to give us guidance on the laws, maybe people in the legal system, attorneys, judges, etc. So I will be doing that as well. This was a direction in my life I was not expecting to go in. If you were to have asked me a year ago, I would tell you, you're crazy. However, here we are. And this is why we're going to name Micah's Law after her in Florida too, because I want to honor her life, and I want to honor her voice, because she is the one who has given me the courage to fight for myself. She has given me the audacity to stand up for what is right in my own life, as well as others. So just as she spoke out, I will speak out. And it is because of her that we are even here. And this is why I want to make sure that I honor her life and her voice and her memory. Her voice will live on forever because she left us such gold, not just the story, not just the things that she went through, but she left some videos that just offered wisdom and hope. And that's what I want to do. I want to offer wisdom and hope. I want to be a beacon of light for every victim out there who is sitting in darkness, wondering if there's a way out. And I'm going to show them the way out. And those people who are in darkness on the way out, and they just need that little bit more to keep going and to keep them safe, and that I don't want them to have the difficulty that I've had over the years, I'm going to help. And that's going to be the legislative reform. I will not be able to take advantage of these things that I'm working on. This is not about me doing something for myself, because the reality is I'm on the tail end of my situation. This is for everyone out there that is currently suffering, a victim of abuse, being taken advantage of, not being honored, not being given the dignity as a human being that they deserve. No one deserves to be abused, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, legal, spiritual. No one. Everyone is made in the image and likeness of God. Everyone deserves honor and dignity. That's why next week's episode was so powerful for me and so convicting, because it's about loving your enemies. And trust me when I say that I have had a lot of experience in my life on loving enemies. And I did learn a lot from the Sermon on the Mount, and we're going to talk about that next week, Mike and I. But I have loved my enemies over the years. I have learned what that looks like and what that is at the heart of it. And I've come to understand how it's even possible. And I'm grateful that I have this particular podcast to share that with you all, because it's something that's changed my life. I will not allow someone else to hurt me so bad that it changes me in a negative way, that it transforms me into someone I don't want to be. I am not going to respond in kind to evil. We talked about that the other week. No, I am going to stand up for myself in a way that is just, in a way that brings wholeness. When I say just, I mean wholeness, shalom into the world for everyone. Hurting someone who's hurt me isn't justice. That's punishment. Hating someone who hates me isn't justice, and it does me no good. That's me repaying evil for evil. But loving my enemy, that's the best thing for everyone, including myself. That's what I've learned in the Sermon on the Mount. It has truly been convicting and amazing in so many different ways. All that to share with you in case that's something that you want to be a part of. You can head over to andreajohn.com. Underneath the main banner, You can click here and go and sign up so you can get the meeting link if you want to participate. Again, you don't have to be in Florida. Maybe you want to listen, contribute. Maybe you're a victim, a survivor, someone who has experience in this. We we need everyone on here. If someone else is working on this, I will take a back seat and I will support them. To be honest, if I'm being completely transparent here, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping I find someone who's already doing it and I can support them, because leading an effort like this is life-changing. I didn't expect this in my life, but what I will tell you is that I'm absolutely willing to take this step and allow my life to go in this direction, because someone needs to do it. And I can no longer complain about it if I don't do something. This is not about keeping peace. This is about making peace, being politically correct. I'm over that. I'm so over that at this point. There needs to be wisdom, but wisdom doesn't mean being a doormat. Wisdom doesn't mean allowing people to slap you in the face over and over again. We talked about that the other week, what it means to turn your cheek, what that meant in the day, what it meant to give someone your coat when they've taken your tunic. We've explained all that, and that also understanding that biblical principle has given me the chutzpah and the courage and the determination to be a voice for the voiceless. Also, in the beginning of the year, one of the things I did was I did a free podcast called In Her Image. So you can go check that out. It's live, In Her Image. It's a 31-day devotional on Proverbs 31. And one of the things we see in Proverbs 31 is justice, the concept of justice, about being the voice for the voiceless, about being there to help those who are vulnerable. And that's something that we see from Jesus over and over. He came to free the oppressed, to set the oppressed free. And man, I've never felt more strongly about this in my life. That is what I'm going to do. And I know I'm going to get pushback, and as a people pleaser, it's probably going to be hard. But over the years being in ministry, one of the things that one of my mentors said is, you're going to have thick skin. If you're going to put yourself out there, you have to have thick skin, because people are going to come at you. And online, even more so, right? Because you have the keyboard warriors. People can't see your face. There's things people will do online that they would never do in person. So you have to develop a thick skin. And I feel like I've had enough practice over the years where I'm ready, willing, and able to have the thick skin necessary to do this, and to be a voice for the voiceless, and to help free the oppressed, because the oppressed are there because someone's holding them down, and the person holding them down doesn't want to let them go. And they won't give up without a fight. And I just have it in me to be the one to say, I'm up for the fight, because I know that this battle isn't mine. This isn't my war to fight. This is God's war to fight. And I know that He is on my side, and He will be my protection and the wind behind me, pushing me forward and helping me and giving me guidance. So, I am willing and able to take this on. However, if someone else is working on it, please do let me know, and I will gladly take a step down, and I will support you in whatever way you need, because that would be easier for me. But we all know that success and greatness doesn't ever come from the road easily traveled, doesn't ever come from the road that everyone's on. It comes from the path that needs to be paved. It comes from the path that is forged by pioneers that is yet to be discovered. So I'm willing to take that on. It is my personality. It is my gifting. And I told the Lord, here I am. Here I am, guys. And that is it for this week's episode. I just want to thank you so much for being here. If you haven't yet clicked the like button, please, it takes 2 seconds. Click that like button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you've been following along, if you've been listening, if you've been blessed with this, I would love to hear from you. So leave a comment below. Let me know where you're from, why you enjoy listening, maybe something that you've taken away. I don't want to sit here and talk at you. Mike has a hard time with this specifically. I've been doing it for years, so it's easier for me. He has a hard time just staring at the camera. He needs people. And that's why he likes to do it with me, because at least there's someone here. But it's really hard to sit in front of a camera and not feel like I'm talking at you. And that's not what I want to do. I don't want to talk at you. I just want to have conversation. So the best way to do that is in the comments section. So let's conversate. Let's have a conversation. What has blessed you? Who are you? Where are you from? How long have you been listening? What's a lesson that you've learned? What's a question that you have? Maybe what have we shared on this podcast that you don't agree with? I would love to know. I truly believe that understanding, love, change, transformation comes from where we have respectful conversations about things we don't agree on. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's my experience anyway. And I truly enjoy it. And I think that there's a way to have respectful conversation on things that we don't agree with, where we can all take something away and no one necessarily leave right or wrong. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about understanding. It's about growth. It's about transformation, conforming to the image of Christ, bearing the image of God. That's the intention here. If you haven't yet subscribed, click the subscribe button. If you don't know how, maybe you're technologically challenged. That may be the case. Shoot me an email or comment something and say, I need help. Where in the world do I subscribe? And then I can help you out with that too. If you enjoy the content here, you can always visit andreajohn.com. That's my website. I have blog posts. All of the podcast episodes are up there, and it's just a good way for us to connect. But to be honest, the comment section is the best to connect. If you would prefer to do so in private, you can always send a direct message or email me at hello@andreajohn.com. Because again, I don't want to talk at you. I would love to get to know you. So I do get some feedback from some of our listeners, but I have a lot more listeners than I have feedback and likes. I know that for sure based on the statistics. So I'd love to get to know you. I would to know who you are. Are you enjoying it? Is there something else that you're looking for? We don't doing Q&A sessions. We don't mind sharing our opinions. If there's current events that you're curious about what we think, maybe you want us to bring a biblical perspective or not. Maybe you just want our opinion that, whether scriptures or not. Hey, Mike and I love to discuss. And if you've noticed, Mike and I don't agree on everything. So we love discussing things we don't agree on. All the time. We do it. We may actually start doing something where when we're on road trips, we tend to have very long conversations, interesting conversations that we think people would find entertaining. And we may actually start recording those as well for your entertainment. But yeah, so that's it, guys. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for your support. We love you guys so, so much. And next week, guys, we will talk about loving our enemies and what's that looks like. And don't forget, the sound's going to be a little off. I don't know if I mentioned that, but the sound's going to be a little bit off, so forgive us. The visual is going to be okay. But, they're a little iffy. We're getting better. I don't know what happened. And I can't go figure it out. So I just have to hope that next time it comes out better. So until next time, bye guys.